So what exactly is this case? We must remember all of this seemed to have emerged before 2016 when the last US presidential elections were held, and as a run-up to the 2024 US presidential elections, it's all over again at the forefront. I'm being joined by two panelists here. Glenn Carl, who is the former Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Transnational Threats. Thank you, Mr. Carl, for joining us. My first question to you, Mr. Carl, could you break this down for an audience very away from US, but plays a very key role perhaps in the elections as well? We saw that even in the early elections. But what exactly is this case, and how is it likely to affect the 2024 run-up?
Well, many issues there in your questions. So the facts that are quite clearly established really are that a decade ago or so, perhaps a little bit more, I don't know, doesn't really matter, Donald Trump had sex with a woman named Stormy Daniels. That is her stage name. I can't remember her real name. It doesn't matter. And then when he ran for office, out of concern that that information, little item, would leak in the press and harm him electorally, he had his then lawyer pay $120,000 in hush money to the woman on the screen now. They then falsified the documents so that there would be no apparent connection between Donald Trump or his campaign with this payment to the porn actress. That came out. Donald Trump was indicted for was an unindicted co-conspirator, principal person in the Mueller investigation by the federal government into campaign irregularities and potential involvement of Donald Trump with Russian intelligence. But the decision was that a sitting president couldn't be indicted. He's no longer a sitting president. His lawyer, Michael Cohen, was charged with misrepresenting the payments and was convicted. So the argument is, and it's pretty compelling, is that if you convict the lawyer, the principal himself for the issue should also be held responsible before the law.
Mr. Carl, let me please get in at this point Anand Ahuja, who is a Trump supporter as well as attorney at law. Thank you, Mr. Anand Ahuja, for joining us. Mr. Ahuja, you also heard Mr. Carl speak. Now, very strong convictions in this case already. But in terms of Mr. Trump, if he is indicted, it will be the first ever US president to be indicted ever, and major ramifications for 2024 elections.
To some extent, you are correct. But one has to keep in mind, indictment or arrest does not mean conviction. So much depends on whether a particular person has been convicted or not. So that has more serious ramifications than just indictment. And secondly, the issue here is because of attorney-client relationship has come into picture here. Everything depends. If the attorney has done anything, right or wrong, at the directions of his or her client, then you can blame the client. But if attorney goes without the knowledge of the client and does something, whether it's illegal or illegal, then the client is not responsible for that, because at times what happens, client may not even know exactly what his or her attorney is doing at his or her back. So that is another issue. Yes, Michael Cohen was an attorney. Yes, Michael Cohen was indicted, not only indicted but convicted on the same charges. But the question is whether it was in the knowledge of Donald Trump, or Michael Cohen as an attorney was too aggressive. And at that time, if you see the relationship between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump, it's the same Michael Cohen who used to say, I will take a bullet on behalf of Donald Trump.
Mr. Ahuja, but former President Trump, his supporters coming out and saying that they may be, that Mr. Trump may be arrested. Is this also an attempt, as many are seeing it, to infuse energy within the entire ecosystem of Trump supporters ahead of 2024?
Yeah, if you see from that angle, yes, I personally believe that both the parties, they are trying to basically incite its base because 2024 election is coming. Donald Trump will get an advantage of playing a victim card, and Democrats at the same time will play a card that, look here, nobody is above the law, whether it's the ex-president or anybody. Law is equal for everyone. So basically, if you see from that angle, it's a more of a political drama here than the actual anybody cares for the crime has been committed.
Okay.
If you see the crime, the same district attorney in New York. If you see the crime rate has gone so up in the
it's not really about crime rates alone, Mr. Ahuja, at this point. Mr. Karl, legally speaking, Mr. Trump was also called to depose before the court, but he refused to do so. He refused to testify before the court. The fact that he was called to testify before the court, that itself a very strong point.
A very strong point.
That's right. Is that a very strong move that may indicate, according to some, that there are possibilities that he may be arrested?
Well, everything in a legal issue touching upon a former president is fraught with political resonance. And so the district attorney in this case is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And to be fair, the political candidate in this instance will have political consequences whether he's indicted or not, simply by the discussion. So you can't, no official, no lawyer can avoid the political realities. But ultimately, as the district attorney has said, and as the American system is founded upon, unless the system attempts to treat all citizens equally before the law, then the system does not function.
What could the implications be in terms of law and order if at all the indictment was to happen? Considering,
well, that's a very significant question. Yes, Donald Trump, as is his standard pattern, has incited, frankly, a mob and called for a violent or strong reaction against this. He has called for the Constitution of the United States to be terminated, the basic laws, so that they do not apply to him. He has said that an election is only valid if he wins. So from top to bottom, he has put himself above the law and beyond the system, which obviously profoundly threatens the system. That he has intimated and indirectly to oppose the actions of a court and the laws is profoundly disturbing. We don't know what will happen today or tomorrow, but we do know what happened on January 6th, and we do know what has happened time and again in the public life of Donald Trump. And the separation of laws and peace have been damaged.
Right. Mr. Ahuja, if I can get you in at this point, Trump has gone on record saying, I have not committed any crime. He said that. In terms of the hush money which has been allegedly paid, it's a whopping amount of money. Several times for that matter, it's none other than Trump's own lawyer, at least once own lawyer, who has actually gone ahead and told that before the court. My question to you is, a large number of supporters for Trump during the 2016 elections were, those who have links to India, perhaps the NRIs. How is the community looking at all of this, particularly now, even as this case is before the court?
Yes, as I said in the, earlier also, for Trump, if you see the historical background, ever since Trump became president, what has been going on against Donald Trump, Mueller investigation, 2 impeachments, Russian collusion. So even before he could take oath of president, Democrats started having all this vicious, poisonous kind of propaganda against Donald Trump. So exactly same thing, we personally believe, those who support Donald Trump, that exactly same thing is going on right now. So whether it's NRIs or whether Trump supporters based in United States, the general feeling here is that since Trump has declared to be a candidate for 2024 election, and right now he is the leading in the Democratic candidates, potential candidates who are likely to participate in primaries
Right.
of the Republican Party. So this is nothing but to make sure that somehow Trump is disqualified so that he does not participate
Right,
in
Mr.
this.
Ahuja. Right. We are out of time. Thank you, Mr. Karl, and thank you, Mr. Ahuja, for joining us.